Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden machinery that's running inside of us, the thing that drives every single thing we do, from our tiniest habits to our deepest connections. We're about to dive into the physics of our own emotions. All right, so to really get to the heart of this emotional machine, we've got to start with a pretty fundamental question about what truly makes us all tick. I mean, think about it for a second. Is it conscious thought? A logical plan? Or is there something else, something more powerful, maybe even more mechanical, that's pulling the strings just beneath the surface? Well, according to emotions theorist Dr. Michael Lukens, our actions are actually driven by a predictable mechanical circuit. He calls it the physics of emotioning, and it's basically the fundamental operating system that he says explains everything you do. It's the engine running the whole show. Okay, so let's pop the hood and take a look at the actual blueprint for this emotional engine. We're about to break down the circuit that's constantly running inside of us. Every single thing you do follows this 4-step process. Seriously, whether you're reaching for a glass of water because you're thirsty or you're making a huge life-altering phone call, this is the exact emotional sequence that unfolds every time. It all kicks off with a trigger event. Now, this can be anything, a stray thought, a sudden noise, even just the look on someone's face. For the small, everyday stuff, the engine is just kind of idling. But for those big life or death moments, whoa, that engine roars to life and it demands a massive amount of energy. And then, instantly, our mind moves to the next step, meaning creation. Based on everything we're sensing, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, our mind assigns significance to that trigger. And here's the really crucial part. This is a willful act. We are actively creating the meaning that's going to drive what happens next. And that brings us to the final step, completion. Once the goal of that circuit is met, you've eaten the pizza, you've made the call, you've gotten to safety, the circuit closes. It just shuts down. The emotional job is finished, and the system resets, all ready for the next trigger. But of course, life is rarely that simple, right? We're almost never running just one of these circuits at a time. So what happens when we've got multiple, maybe even conflicting programs all running at once? Well, Dr. Lukens has this fantastic metaphor for that internal state. He calls it a steaming stew, a witch's brew of competing drives. And that perfectly captures that feeling of ambivalence. And we've all been there, right? That feeling of being pulled in a million different directions. You know you need to make that difficult phone call, but inside, you've got fear and anger and guilt all boiling up in that internal stew. Each one has its own action program, and they're all fighting for control. So what's really interesting is how we resolve that conflict. The most powerful emotion, the one with the most energy, becomes the bus driver. In this example, even though anger and guilt are there, fear makes up 75% of the energy. So fear is driving your actions, even while those other emotions are just rattling around in the back seat. Okay, so if our emotions are just these mechanical programs, all churning together in this stew of ambivalence, where does something as profound, as essential as love fit into this picture? Is love just another ingredient in the stew, like fear or desire, fighting to take the wheel? Well, according to Dr. Lukens, the answer is a hard no. He argues that it's something entirely different, something far more fundamental to our very being. He actually redefines love as CBI, which stands for committed benevolent interest. Now, this isn't some fleeting feeling that comes and goes. It's a fundamental stance, a genuine orientation of wanting success and well-being for another person. In his own words, it is the ground of our being. So this is a huge point. We all operate on a continuum between love, as CBI, and its polar opposite, contempt. Contempt is the very negation of love. It's the energy that actually wants to see others fail. And this isn't just another emotion in the stew, it's a fundamental operating principle. So that raises a critical question. If our true nature is oriented towards love, why is there so much contempt in the world, and even within ourselves? To answer that, we need to look at how our own emotional machine can sometimes work against us. See, to shield ourselves from pain and rejection and fear, we construct defenses. Dr. Lukens uses this perfect metaphor of a fence that we build around ourselves designed to keep all the bad stuff out. But here's the tragic paradox of it all. While that fence might keep threats out, it also has the unintended consequence of locking us in. It shrinks our world, and it prevents us from connecting, from growing, and from operating from that place of committed benevolent interest that our hearts and minds were naturally built for. And it's a question worth taking a moment to sit with. Have the very defenses you've built to protect yourself become your own prison, cutting you off from the love you're truly meant to give and receive? So, if we now understand this emotional machine, and we can recognize the fences we've built around ourselves, is there a way back? Is it possible to heal this machine and reclaim our freedom to love? And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. By simply understanding the mechanics of our own emotioning, the triggers, the meanings we create, the ambivalence we feel, we gain the power to see our fences for what they are. We can begin to deconstruct them, and in doing so, we remind our hearts and minds of their original, fundamental nature, to be free to operate from a place of love. And so, we'll leave you with a final question to carry with you. Now that you've seen the machine and the fence, what might be the very first step, no matter how small, that you could take to begin dismantling it and reclaiming your innate freedom to love?